Hello, hello, welcome back. I am Kristen. I'm an infinite banking practitioner, and I am talking about some of the different accounts that we can save our money in. And so please stick with me. We're going to look at some different ways that you can protect yourself and your loved ones through your lifetime and save for your future while still keeping access to that money. If you haven't watched the previous two episodes, I encourage you to go back and watch those. So I talked about registered accounts and how they're a ticking time bomb and that you do have to pay taxes later on. A lot of people don't realize that registered accounts are just pushing the tax can down the road, and that does catch up with you eventually. So if you haven't watched those episodes, I encourage you to do that. I went in with some math and shared how that works numerically. We looked at some really complicated calculations and looked at what that actually looks like once you factor in your taxes, your fees, and all the different things that work in the background when you're saving money in a mutual fund type place. So today I want to look at another type of investment. Last week we talked about registered accounts, but I also touched on non-registered accounts and TFSA and how those different accounts work. This week I want to look at a completely different place that you could save your money that could potentially work better for you. Let's dive in and take a look. So on the screen here, I have the values from a permanent life insurance policy. Now, in this case, this is a policy that I designed for a young man. He's 30 years old. He makes about $100,000 a year, and he's going to put in $20,000 a year. Remember, this is as his savings vessel, and he's going to put in $20,000 a year until the age of 65. Now, we're not going to factor in inflation in his contributions, so we'll keep the contributions the same. And we're also not going to factor in him using this as a system of policies like I teach people to use. So if you've seen any of my other trainings, you know that I do infinite banking and that I teach people how to use their life insurance policy to finance the things through their life and allowing them to accumulate more and more money throughout their lifetime. We're not even factoring this in. We're using this in this example strictly as a savings vessel. Okay. I just want to show how this stacks up to other investments that he could be saving in. Again, life insurance is not an investment. I'm just comparing it to a separate outside investment. So let's take a look. Here we have his $20,000 that's going in every year. We see his age over here on the left and the policy year. Now, we have the rate of return showing. I'm not going to focus too much on that. The increase in cash value. I want you to pay attention to these two columns. So he has cash value that very first year of $17,000. Now, cash value is the value of your future death benefit in today's dollars. Okay, so if you were to decide that you don't want that policy anymore and you want to cancel it, the life insurance company would have to pay you this amount of cash. This is built into your contract. They would have to pay you your cash value in order for you to end the contract. Now, he's going to pay that, like I said, until he's 65, and then he's going to stop paying. At that point, he has just under $2 million here in cash value that he has access to. Now, this column, he has access to that through his whole life. He does not have to surrender the policy to be able to access this cash. Why is that? Because he can now borrow money from the life insurance company up to, depending on the company, 90% of this cash value. So he can borrow that in guaranteed loans that he's in control of. He doesn't have to apply for them. This isn't something where they do a credit check. In fact, it doesn't even show on your credit report because this is a completely private contract and a private loan. You are borrowing the money from the insurance company, allowing your money to stay in the policy and continue growing. So that cash value will eventually equal the death benefit. So now that we've looked at that, by the time he's 99, we see that cash value has now equaled the death benefit, which keeps growing, by the way, because of the way that I designed this policy. He's going to have access to that cash at the end of his life. He's been able to use that throughout his lifetime, and this is the amount that's paid out to him if he lives past the age of 99. Once he hits the age of 100, the insurance company is going to send him a check for the death benefit because that is their end of the contract that they have agreed to pay that death benefit to him. So his $720,000 that he's put in through his lifetime has now equaled $10 million by the age of 100. So let's look because everyone says, but you can put that money into a different account. You can make the same rate of return. Let's see. If we have an alternate account, you would have to make 4.9% rate of return on that account in order to have the same outcome. We're going to factor in, but a lot of people say that, yes, but I could put that $20,000 into a different account and I could have a better outcome. So let's take a look and see what you would need to earn. So right now, based on the numbers that are in here, and we're talking just cash value, okay, we're not looking at death benefit. In order to have the same results with the cash value, you want that same growth, you would need to have a rate of return of 5.05%. Now, if you watched my last video, you know that the average rate of return is not what it seems, that you still have these management expenses and you have to take in taxes into consideration, and you're actually earning a lot less than what your rate of return is that it says on your statement. So let's factor in some of those. So we're going to put our 5.05% here into our alternate account, and we see that we get that same outcome, $10 million. Now, we have to factor in those management fees. So we're going to put that at just the 2%. Again, if you watched last week's video, you know that these fees can go upwards of 3, 4, 5%. I'm keeping it very conservative at 2. Now, in order to make that same rate of return for your investment to equal the cash value growth, now factoring in the management fees, you would need 7.2%. Okay, great. Let's add in taxes because now if you're using an alternate account, you're going to have taxes. Now, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to just say that this is an account that you're earning interest in. So we're going to add this in. We'll use the same tax bracket that our gentleman was in when he's making $100,000 a year. So he's in that 30% tax bracket. Now, after management fees, after his income tax, now he has to match 10.41% rate of return in order for his investment to grow as high as his life insurance cash value. Let that sink in for a second. He would need to make 10.41% every single year in order for his alternate account to equal the values in his permanent life insurance. That doesn't even factor in the death benefit. Okay, let that sink in. I know there's a lot of numbers on the screen here, guys. You don't need to look at everything. What I want you to pay attention to is the difference. Okay, in the beginning years, yes, that investment is going to do better in the first couple years. But watch what happens once it starts getting momentum. Now, the life insurance is outperforming the investment by a substantial amount. By the end of his life, it's outperformed it by $8.7 million. That's not something to take lightly. Now let's factor in, okay, he's going to get term insurance for his life. We're going to put the same death benefit on him, and now he's going to pay insurance. Let's add that insurance on. We're going to pay $784 a year, but that amount keeps going up, right? By the time he hits retirement age, that has now jumped to where he has to pay over $20,000 just to keep the death benefit equal. So we're going to cancel that later on because those numbers are outrageous. So we're even canceling this. Let's cancel it at 64. Okay, we see that's canceled. He's still paying $2,800 a year for rented insurance. But now look what happens to the amount for his heirs. His death benefit has now gone down. Now there's only $800,000 that's available if he passed away at that time that could go to his beneficiaries. Let's look at them compared together. So here we have your alternate account and your cash value and your life insurance. Again, those first couple years, the alternate account does better. After that, though, that life insurance is going to get better and better every single year. Once he drops his term insurance, so at 66, if he passes away here, only $800,000 goes to his beneficiaries compared to 3.6 million had he put that money in life insurance. Again, I'm not saying put all your money in life insurance. I'm saying that it has a very important place as the base for your foundation of all of your finances that can act as a very powerful tool. Because remember, he's putting this money away regardless. However, if he has it in life insurance, now he has access to that cash value. So this amount here, he has access to that through his life. If that money is in an alternate account, he can't take that out. If he takes it out, he's losing the growth forever. Let's say that if he took out money in year 39, he would stop that growth. And every number after that, I know it's common sense, every number after that, of course, is going to be lower because you have lower principal. But we don't realize how big of an impact that's going to have. Whereas if he's using cash in his permanent life insurance policy, if he's taking out policy loans, yes, there's a cost to loans. It's minimal and it is only simple interest. So it's charged once a year, compounded once a year. It's not charged to you monthly. Again, you have control over these loans. You decide how much you pay, even if you pay them back. Now, later on, he could use this as his retirement strategy. He could start pulling out policy loans and not pay them back. That could be his retirement plan. He could be living off the dividends. At this point, the dividends are about $40,000 a year and increasing every single year. He could choose to just live on the dividends, use that to supplement his retirement. But more than that, I want you to think of this cash value here as this pool of money that you can put to work for yourself. What can you do to make this money work even better? You can borrow it and invest it in a higher performing asset. What does that look like? Maybe it's rental properties. Maybe it's investing in your business. Maybe it's a real estate investment fund. There are a million ways that you can make money grow when you have access to it, but you need access to the cash to be able to do that. That is the biggest difference between this plan, your alternate investment, and having money in insurance. Because when your money is insurance and you have access to it, that opens a million doors that have not been there before. So now you can have that money doing work in two different places at once. It's earning an income through some other means, whether it's a business, rental property, etc. And you have it working for you inside of your insurance policy. So I encourage you, if this is something that you would like to know more about, I encourage you to go ahead and book a call. We will set you up. We'll look at your finances as a whole. So we'll take a holistic view, look at everything that you are doing. And often we can start these policies without changing your cash flow. We're just going to change the way that it flows. So if you have debt, if you have credit cards, you have car loans, we can often utilize a policy to put cash in and start paying off those debts and have it working more efficiently for you. And more importantly, capturing it inside the policy. So again, if this is something that you are interested in, I encourage you to set up an appointment to talk further. I look forward to speaking with you. Until